Test, 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 1, 2, 3. Press
Test,
1
1, 2.
if you hear us and see us okay. Test, test.
The chat says.
The chat says 1. Oh, fuck. All right, I got my my coffee and my LaCroix, and you got your coffee and your tea. Your double cap today.
Oh, how do we get that in? The web logo right there.
All right, how's it going, everybody? So welcome to talk number 1 for Nights and Weekends S2. And today we got Furqan, who we'll be chatting with today. But just to real quick set the scene, you all are now at week 1 of Nights and Weekends. Week 0 was all about your idea, and week 1 is all about getting your idea off localhost and actually in the hands of people. And I thought, who better to talk to about this stuff than Furqan, the guy who helped me do something very similar many years ago and still does to this day, right? Like going from idea to actually getting it done is much it's pretty easy at its core, but I think it's hard to kind of think about when you haven't done it many times. So here we got Furqan. So Furqan, the title of this is Building Great Products with Furqan. What do you know about building great products, man? Who are you, by the way?
I don't know anything. No, I've worked with a bunch of people that have been great product thinkers, and so I've gotten a front row seat with Adam at AppLovin and Sean at the Bebo journey to kind of watch what it takes to build great products, and gotten my hands into those products and built them, and I don't know, probably at this time have shipped maybe hundreds of things to people. Most of them.
So I guess
I've heard of.
I guess in the chat here, from 1 to 10, how much do you know of Furqan? 10 being I know this guy. I love him and I followed him my whole life. And 1, like, who is this guy? Because I'm assuming not everybody knows you. So yeah, I got some zeros, got some hundreds. Ooh. Got stubborn here. But yeah, who are you for the people putting 1?
Yeah, so just really quick, I grew up around technology. I got kind of started as a kid, learned programming just in 5th and 6th grade, and got a chance to work at a .com at 15, just at a really early age. This was in 1999. And, kind of learned a little bit of HTML back then. And, those skills were useful. Closer to the mic. All right.
ASMR.
ASMR. All right. And then, basically I've spent my whole kind of career over the last 2 decades just building technology products, mostly on the internet. So, things in e-commerce or, mobile, live streaming, computer vision, all kinds of things around social, consumer, B2B, et cetera. And so, just built a lot of stuff, mostly on the technology side.
Yeah. So maybe what are like the top 3 things that you built, and then can kind of go into like deeper into some of them, basically.
Yeah, AppLovin was obviously the biggest in terms of overall success that I was a part of. I was part of the early team there. We did a lot of stuff before AppLovin. We built stuff across consumer social, mobile apps, mobile experiences, and eventually started as kind of a mobile monetization ad network and into mobile games and things like that. At Bebo, we built a lot of different products. We had a product called Chatty Heads, which was like really cool messenger product. Blab, which was a live streaming app in 2015, where if we were talking like what we're doing now, this was the whole product. A live streaming app that kind of replaces OBS, kind of, et cetera.
So pretty much AppLovin, a lot before AppLovin, you spent like 10 years building stuff, which we'll talk about. But AppLovin, IPO, worth like a couple bill. From there, you did Bebo, sold to Twitch, and now you're working on Third Web, which is you're drinking from the mug, the Third Web mug, right? You want to just show it to people? That's pretty nice, actually. Third Web. And then you're also working on Founders Inc., so 2 companies at the same time now. So that's like your history. But hey, you spent like 10 years like grinding. I mean, you're still grinding to this day, right? Every single day I see you, but you spent 10 years really going ham, or even just to this day, we'll just call it 20 years, right? Yeah. So a lot of people here, they're just getting started in the sense of like, some people, not getting started in the sense of like starting a company or anything like that, but they're just getting started working on their own ideas. Like, having done it so many times yourself, how do you get started? Like, if Furqan starts a new idea today, like AI generated wallpapers or whatever it is, how do you kind of go from there and be like, all right, I'm starting. This is how I'm doing it.
I mean, the first thing is I just start. I wake up, I get started, I get going. Starts with your motivation, your passion, what you're excited about. People call that inspiration. You can call that a variety of things, but you get excited about something and then you just get going. And that it sounds so simple, but it's actually really hard because you're just trained to try to plan and strategize and think really hard about everything. But there was that thinking happened in your motivation moment when you got excited about that thing. And so you start thinking about what it is, who uses it, how it works, how it should function. And then you just start doing that. And that's what I do. And honestly, most things, day 2, you're like, that was a dumb idea. I'm gonna, forget that. And then that's okay. But if you don't want to get off the ground, that's kind of, I don't know, like that's the key moment is getting off the ground.
So I guess we'll come up with the dumb idea right now, which is like, I don't know, Brent, you're making coffee cups, right? You come up with the coffee cup idea today. What do you do kind of from here? Like you're trying to, you think this idea is awesome. I think most people, the problem is they'll just, that I'm noticing is that most people will overcomplicate it. They'll be like, I got to think about the coffee cup design. I got to make the website. I don't know how to code all of a sudden. It's something like you're learning how to code. And it's like, how do you kind of stop yourself from getting distracted? Like even with this coffee cup example, what do you do like that just helps you focus up like better than anybody else?
Yeah, so, I'll tell you kind of how we started Third Web. I think it has a similar moment here. We were building a bunch of products around the Web3 space in our incubator. And, there was a few good ideas. We had spent some time on it, a few months. We had actually people that were interested in using it and starting to kind of grow there. And there was kind of this light bulb moment last year around August where it was like, wait, the thing we did to do this and the thing we did to do the last thing and the thing before that all had a similar pattern of how we built it. It's kind of annoying to do. And actually our stack is pretty good now. Like, why did we have to build all of these things? Why did we have to make sure all these best practices existed? And so, it was kind of this moment like, there should be a framework. And I looked around, like, there really wasn't the thing that I was looking for. And so I was like, oh, like, fuck it, we should build this. Like, this should be something that we build. And honestly, I started with like a pretty poorly written note to Jake. Like I found the one person that I was like, I already talked to this person about it. It's like, find your one person or two people about an idea, start talking to them about it. And then I wrote a pretty poorly worded half-page Notion doc and a bad name for the product. But anyways, whatever. And
what was the name?
NFT Labs.
Oh, yeah.
Great name, just totally exactly what we wanted to do. And so I kind of took that and I started sending it to people that I thought could give me some opinion about this. Yeah. Not with the hope that they tell me it's a great or bad idea, in the exercise of kind of shipping, And I think that you don't need to make a website. You need to get your idea out of your head and to other people. And then, to be honest, we just kind of kept doing that. The Notion doc got better. I sent it to more people. I got feedback from everybody that I needed immediately. And then the Notion doc was like 1.5 pages, and we had like constructed this pretty crappy website over a few nights to kind of do the main product experience. And so, 4 or 5 days from inspiration, we have something to show people, and we've gotten probably 50 people's feedback in, I would say, the first 5 days.
Yeah, so you literally shipped a Notion doc.
Yeah, I think I sent it to you.
You did send it to me, yeah. It was pretty cool. I mean, the thing is like, this is an SDK. It's a developer tool, but you started, most people are like, okay, I got to start like, I got to like launch VS Code now. I got to start making some shit. But you literally made a Notion doc. Yeah. And then sent it to your buddies. And,
I don't even like writing, by the way. I don't write a lot. You know that, right? So, this is how important it was. It's like, what's the easiest thing I could do? I'll just write it down.
Yeah. Why didn't you just start like, what inside of you didn't make you just go straight to your laptop and spend like a month straight starting the SDK and like actually working on the SDK? Like what? Because I think most people here would do that. Like, okay, I need to build an SDK. I need to start making the SDK. But what in your brain was like, fuck, Furqan is not doing that.
Yeah. I have this kind of like, startup experience in 2007. Started a company called Live RSVP. It was kind of like an event management platform, maybe something like what Eventbrite kind of became. And, really at that moment, I had done a few things. I felt like I knew what I was doing, which is the most dangerous mindset. It's like, you really don't know what you're doing. I think that's the key. It's like, I know I can figure it out. I don't know what I'm doing, though. And that company, I ran it like I thought I knew what I was doing. And I basically wasted, I don't know, 16 months out of the 18-month journey of that company, trying to build this perfect product, trying to like outsmart myself, like, it has to have all these bells and whistles. And, you'd go into a pitch and you're trying to like paint this huge vision. They're like, what is this? Like, you're not even saying the main thing. And then kind of as we started running out of money, and it was really bad times around 2008, 2009 to try to raise capital. It was like kind of impossible, I would say. So you're not really getting any success in that. And I don't know, in the last month kind of went into fuck it mode. And that month and a half was like more progress than, everything before it times 10. Like we actually probably had something. And it was a painful experience because one, you go through this like, big exercise in time. And then kind of two, you spend a lot of your own time, capital, money. I poured my own money into it. I went into debt, like all kinds of stuff that you paid cost for later. And so that's kind of why it's the scars of before are just too deep. And it just has never worked that way. Everything that's worked has always worked very simply and kind of straightforward when it works.
So like pretty much you spent 16 months. You weren't fucking around. Like you guys were doing stuff.
We were working.
You were working.
We were rewriting the website like every 2 weeks. So we're like, oh, we got new framework came out. Like, hey, a new version of PHP's out. Like, oh, we got to optimize our databases. It's like nobody will use this product. They'll think it sucks, and the design sucks, and like that was just totally the wrong approach. NFT Labs, the website was a type dream website, I think, or it was just we literally had like 2 boxes on the website, and we said like 2 things, but it was so much better than that entire 16-month experience that we did because it got the point across. And so I don't know, that's I think the reasoning is after a while you just start realizing like actually those things don't matter. It's like making the perfect code or sometimes even writing code. What matters is do people want the thing?
Yeah. Why is it so important for people to want the thing? Like why? Like I guess from a business point of view, of course, people need to want the thing. That's what makes it a business. But inside of you, like what is it that makes? Why is it important for people to want the thing for you? Like, does that get you like excited about it? Like, what about it? Right?
I think it's cool to build things for people. When you solve problems for people, that's like a rewarding experience as a builder. So I think that's kind of why like we're building dev tools or we build products like that. I built a lot of creator products because it was like they could make their livelihood on that, and that's kind of cool, I think. But second is people's attention is pulled in 1,000 different places. And, if you're building a product that requires somebody's attention, like it has to be good enough where they prioritize it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, again, at the start, you said that you've built probably over 100 products. Like I think if we list them out, you've definitely built over 100 products.
Probably.
And then if you actually list out and 10 of these have gotten, probably more than 10, have gotten millions of people using them. Right?
Yeah, probably around 10 have hit some non-trivial number like that.
Yeah, like that's insane, right? To get 10, most people here maybe are at 1, maybe are at 0, right? Even me, like you could argue like maybe 2 or 3. But like you've done 10. Like that is insane. So I guess like, can you maybe pick, we were talking before about this story about where you went to high school, but like you were working on a live streaming platform and you didn't know shit about live streaming at the time, right? At Bebo. So maybe you could talk through that story about how like, you went from not knowing shit about an industry and idea to within a couple weeks knowing something about it and actually getting it to get really big, and how you started that. Yeah.
Yeah. The way we had set up Bebo was it was kind of built out of this idea lab, and the goal was take a lot of shots at consumer social, kind of 2013 to 2019, around that time. And so we would come up with an idea, we would figure it out, try to make it interesting, test it, build it, launch it, and launch it in kind of bigger ways, mostly, like try to make sure that we got enough people on that it could try to succeed. And in consumer social, like the million number was kind of like an easy kind of target first. Like, hey, if we can't get 1 million people on it, nobody's going to want it.
Yeah.
And we won't know if anybody wants it, right? And so there was a moment where we had kind of done an idea, it wasn't working. And I remember, talking with Sean, and we were like, hey, okay, we got to pivot to a new idea. We got a bunch of stuff we've kind of like thrown around. Why don't we do like a session or a week with the team? So we decided to split up the team, and we took.
You guys are like 10 people at this point, right?
We're like 10 people. We kind of took 4 people who I would say are the more senior folks in the team. So myself, Sean, Florin, and designer Derek. And then we kind of took a lot of the younger folks in the team and said, hey, we're going to split up, and you guys come up with an idea and build it, take 2 weeks. We actually kicked them out of the office. We took the office. It was and so they came back with an idea, and we came back with an idea, and their idea was awesome. Our idea sucked, to be honest, which is kind of, I would say, expected with the construction of the team. And that actually turned into this live streaming app, Blab. And so, we had kind of taken this approach of like, look, we have a bunch of stuff we want to think about. Let's just spend 2 weeks and go make something, try it, have an experience, test it out with some people. And, the idea was out of, many conversations, but you needed that focus time to just dive in 1 week and build it. And the second week, get people to kind of play around with it.
Yeah, so you guys are like a legitimate company that's funded with 10 people at this point, and you're still doing the same thing that a lot of people here are doing, which is just spending 2 weeks on the idea.
Yeah.
So then you came up with that team came up with this live idea, right?
Correct.
What's the story there?
The Blab product, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we started that product. It was like Google Hangouts live stream, right?
This is like 2014, I think?
Yeah, 2015, I think, right around there. And we were like, hey, we're going to start in the startup community. So we built a bunch of kind of things around startups and content. And actually, there was a wave of social media marketers that flooded our platform, and they loved it. This was like perfect for them. They ran workshops, they ran, sessions around content, sessions around how to use tools. Also, they loved our tools, so they told everybody else about it. And then it started just really growing like a lot. And it was like every week you're just like 30, 40, 50% growth in user base, things breaking, still a small team. And you're just day in, day out solving what would be 1 month problems if you sat down and you tried to articulate it, and you only had like an hour to solve it. It's like database going down, new large creator going live. We went from 300 requests a second to like 15,000 requests a second for that session, and you're like, I don't got time to really read white papers and figure out if this is interesting. I only got time to kind of quickly solve the problem. And so you just kind of get into this mode of like really solving things a lot.
Yeah. In those first 2 weeks, you had to come up with the idea, you had to build it, and then you had to get people using it, right? And I think to get people using it, I think most people here probably know how to build it and how to coming over the ideas is, you get it over time, but getting people to use it is like, that's a learned skill, right? So this, and you told me the story a lot, right? The whole high school thing. Maybe you could go through that one real quick on this one.
Yeah, so a different product. It was a mobile live streaming app. I would say kind of similar to House Party or what that became. And so this product was kind of targeted at a younger crowd, like high schoolers, college students. And we just had built it out, and it was like, wait, how do we, like, we're not those people. How do we build the right thing? How do we get that feedback?
Yeah, like you want to build something for 14-year-olds, but you're like, you're like 10 years older than that.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, like this, we got to go find some people, some high schoolers, and how do we do that? And so there was 2 folks on our team, Tyler and Jason, and they sat down, they brainstormed some stuff, and I forgot who gave them the kick, but somebody was like, you know what? There's no like, 15, 16-year-olds at this, office. There's no college kids here. Like go out into the world, like leave the office, go out, go find some people, tell them to download our app. And so they're like, okay, this is odd. And they go down the street in San Francisco. They walk by the mall. They see a Chipotle. So they're like, you know what? We're going to buy 10 burritos. And they wrote a sign that said, free burritos if you download my app.
Dude, high schoolers love Chipotle.
And they went in the mall, and they had this sign up, and people started coming up to them. And the security guard comes up at Westfield. Is like, dude, get the fuck out of here. Like, what are you idiots doing? So they're like, well, this was kind of interesting. Some people kind of did it. And they wanted the burrito. But, obviously we can't do it at the mall. So then they're like, okay, like, where do we go? And so then, we start kind of brainstorming that. And we're like, hey, we got to go to where the high schools are. Like, where do the kids hang out?
Dude, this sounds funny.
And so
sounds interesting.
They find a high school, and they're like, we're going to buy pizza. We're going to stand in the parking lot, which, by the way, this is a horrible idea.
Where are the high schoolers at?
In all, like, when you say this out loud, you're like, this is a terrible idea. But
bro, sounds awesome.
They're outside. They got pizzas. Kids are like, okay, free pizza to download my app. Like, this is a little odd, but okay, people are doing it. And then, like, some teacher comes out, and Jason and Tyler are like, oh, fuck. Like, well, what is going to happen here? And the teacher goes, hey, what are you guys doing? And they go, yeah, we're like a startup, and we're just trying to, get people to download our app. And the teacher's like, really? You want to teach a class? And we're like, what? And the teacher basically invited in. The teacher was like, one of the elective classes around entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And we ended up talking to the teacher. We were actually a legit company. We weren't, some weirdos,
Yeah.
although weird behaviors possibly. But and so what ended up happening was the teacher invited us in. We kind of talked to the teacher about what the class is about, and we created kind of like a mini Shark Tank session for this class.
Yeah.
And so it'd be 20 minutes. We'd play like a little Shark Tank game. We'd get all the kids to come up with ideas and then pitch them, and everyone votes. And you kind of had some cool stuff happen. And then we taught them about how we build products. Then we got them to download our app. And our goal was kind of simple. It was the way these social products worked is it would saturate a school. A school is a network, right? All the kids are like one network. They go class to class.
Yeah.
And we needed, a whole school to use our product. Because if a whole school could use it and it was useful for them, and it was kind of like a messaging product, great. Like that's what kids are doing. They're sending videos to each other. They're messaging. They're doing things like that. And so that was kind of like the idea is how do we saturate the network? And, there's a lot of strategies you could come up with. There's like specific things. I think we grouped this into a bucket of stuff called hand-to-hand combat, like one by one. And I think, Paul Graham has do things that don't scale. It's the same idea where early on, like, you just got to go one by one. Every customer, every call. And, with Third Web, like, you sat next to me. How many calls was I doing for months? Like,
yeah, maybe it's worth telling. Like, me and Furqan shared the office when he was starting Third Web and I was working on Buildspace. And yeah, just like 10, 20 calls a day with the same pitch. By the way, just for the story, I'm not trying to offend you here, but like this guy was showing like a white HTML page with one connect to wallet button. And when it connected to a wallet, it didn't even do anything. But like you were like saying like, when you connect a wallet, it's so simple. It's so easy to implement. Look at how easy, look how beautiful and simple. And you were like selling it, right? But you had worked on it for like 3 days or something. Like it was.
The day was the day was about selling the product and seeing the real companies give a shit about this. And then the night was hacking the next broken thing. And there were a lot of broken things in the demo. I think the coolest thing was I would get emails and messages later of like, hey, I know the thing you showed me was broken, but when you fix it, can I use it?
Yeah.
And they had confidence in me. And that was kind of what I was trying to get out is like, there's something here. And I wasn't afraid to show like a really crappy thing. Admittedly so. I mean, usually if I'm writing the code, it's not the best of products at that stage. But, I think that gave us confidence after a few hundred of those calls that this is real and there's real people and companies and entities that want this, like non-trivial types of companies. And we could invest more people and time. And so we quickly went from 2 to 5 to 7 to 10. And, now Third Web's 30 people. It's been, maybe 16 months now since the company's existed. But I think that's kind of the thing there is, how do you get off the ground and have the confidence to invest more time, energy, effort. And I think that's the main thing that you're focused on is how do I make sure I do the right stuff,
Yeah, I think like something that you just always seem really good at, even the story, even just the story of the high schoolers, the story of Bebo, the story of anything. It's like, it seems like you just got really good at fighting, like the early hand-to-hand combat days, right? Like when you're starting Third Web, when you're starting Founders Inc., when you're starting anything, it's like, you're like not scared to get in the ring, right? But I think even me, like you can argue I'm scared to an extent, right? Like I actually don't want to throw that punch, right? Or I don't want to like, I want to block here. I want to back away. I want to get out. But I think you're always like, nah, let's fucking do this, right? But is that like built over time or yeah, like what is it?
Yeah, I guess you get trained in 2 ways. Like you do stuff, you fail, you do stuff, you succeed. And then I think over time you have some time to think about. Like early on is just like kind of just trying to move too fast. And then a few years in or 5, 7 years in, you slow down a little bit. You've seen some stuff and it's a lot easier to kind of identify some of the things that worked. And
yeah,
I just think that, if I want to do something and I want to be successful at it, I know I'm going to have to work hard. Like that's the given. And it's not hours a week hard. It's more the fight, the anguish, the push for the right thing. And I think it's all of the cases of success have had that in it. And so I don't think that you can do, large impactful things without kind of having that. I would disagree that you would give up or you wouldn't throw the punch. I've kind of seen you kind of be in that state. So I don't know. You just have to push really hard and you have to work hard. Like I just don't see how you can make these kind of, large scale impact products without that.
Yeah, I think where you helped me out with like years ago was like this concept of momentum, right? So like in the beginning, I think if I kind of take away with what you're saying, just everything you've done, you just build momentum really quickly because it's pretty easy to get like kind of bored and be like, I don't want to do this anymore, right? Like I think that's where a lot of people might be at here today, where it's like they got this sick idea, AI wallpapers, and they're like, they started, but they're like, they may do the wrong things that don't get them momentum, right? But I feel like you always pick things that are like, because you've just fucked up so many times where you're like, I'm not going to do that thing. I'm going to do that thing because it's going to make me more excited tomorrow. And so, for example, this third web meetings thing, like you can argue that 20 meetings in a day will teach you stuff, but I think you actually did it because you wanted momentum, right? Yeah. And I think, like what is one framework that you gave me for momentum was just the 1 day, 1 week, 1 month thing, or the 1 hour thing. Like you didn't even talk about that here, where it's like, I'll let you kind of talk about it.
Yeah. Like I think, especially early on in a startup, time is kind of the thing that you're fighting against. And the reason you're really looking for momentum is because a startup is really small. And the idea is you could quickly move up and become a larger company. And the startups that work 2, 3, 4 years in, they're kind of non-trivial in size and they've grown. And that's kind of like what you're looking for because you're taking on some incumbent, some existing market, some situation. There's probably larger companies, larger product, larger competitors or entities in the space. And you have to kind of run by them. And you don't really do that by moving at a normal pace. You only do that by having kind of this exponential growth or momentum. And so everything I want to do, it must have that. So it's not that I only do things that have momentum. If I do something and it's not going to have momentum, I stop doing it. And I'm not just going to sit on an idea for, honestly, even weeks if I don't think anybody wants it. And I think that was the key. It's like, Third Web, the vision was like, we need this complete framework between, previously the internet was client server where servers are private. Now you have public servers, public backends, and you kind of need new tools to build internet products on public backends. And that's like a big vision. I could talk about that vision. I could talk about how running code in these environments is like a virtual machine or like a Docker container and tell you, these advanced areas that we want to maybe expand into. But I think the reality is if nobody wanted the thing that they wanted last year, which was like NFT drops, then nobody's going to want this long grand vision. And so the goal was, how do we actually see some value? How do we see people who want to do stuff use it? And if we weren't doing that, if we weren't actually getting that to happen, this idea wasn't going to be worth the time and effort. And I think that's the key is you could spend years on stuff and what are you going to, you want to make sure you spend it on the right things. And I don't want to waste days or weeks. And so I think it's really important to build momentum. And if it's not happening, it's important to find the next thing. And that's okay. Like you're going to, careers are long and you get a lot of shots at goal.
How do you, I think that's tough, right? To like not get attached to your idea. Why aren't you ever attached to your ideas?
Because ideas are kind of fundamentally useless. Like, a lot of people think even in a new market, it's about, being first. It's usually not that. It's like first default is maybe more accurate or something else, but kind of fundamentally, there's gonna be like 1,000 people that have the same idea as you along the way to success. So ideas are not it. So what is it? Is execution. Everyone says that, but what does that actually mean? It's not like unit test coverage of your code, probably. It's probably like, how are you going to navigate, with a small team and a small group, this like really uphill challenge. Like, the analogy we always use was climbing Mount Everest. Like that's the challenge. It's hard. You don't just wake up one day and you're like, I'm just going to walk up it. You're going to go find a Sherpa. You're going to have a group. You're going to have experience. You're going to have preparation. You're going to have every ounce of things covered, and it's still going to be chaotic and tough and may not be successful. And so, like I think it's just that.
Also, you've now made this meme that's now caught on. It's if you know what the meme is, get the fuck off Localos. Like that's caught on, right? And it's really interesting. People have that in their bios now. People have there's people who are sporting hoodies now in Times Square with this thing.
But which, by the way, I would love a hoodie if I could please get one. Who do I gotta
I think you should have the founder of Buildspace. I don't know.
Who at Buildspace can help me get a hoodie? Because somehow I didn't get one. So, there you go.
Yeah, 50-50 created, bro. But yeah, GTFOL, get the fuck off of localhost. If, you also work on Founders Inc. now, like 2 things at the same time, right? And you probably deal with like a lot of founder builder types every single day.
Yeah.
And you probably, what separates, you probably see some people that are like, God damn, that person knows what they're doing. And then also the person that's like, that person, a little more work to do. What's like the difference between the two, basically? Between knowing what you seeing that, that's someone knows what they're doing, and someone that's just like,
It's weird because sometimes like there's not really a difference. It's like just kind of like the mindset or the things you do. Like, what's your objective? What's your North Star? And if you're building an early stage product, it's about usage. It's about getting that feedback loop going. And if you see teams that are, hey, we're 6 people, and you look at the team and everyone's just coding all day, hey, when was the last release? 2 months ago. Hey, when's the next release? Oh, we're working on V3. It'll be out in 2 months. What about your current users? We're not onboarding new users because we're going to build a new version of the thing. And it's like, that's like not momentum. That's the opposite of that,
Yeah.
And so I think the teams that ship have just a higher rate of success is because they get a chance to kind of see a lot more. They get to see their impact faster, and they get to see if they build kind of loyal customers that have habits. And I think similarly at Third Web, like we ship every day still. And not every single person ships a 1-day project, but like as a team, as a unit, there are a regular state of deployments happening everywhere. And that's because you can make bite-sized chunks of things. And, I've spent a lot of time working with engineers, managing them, working on engineering teams, kind of working in a variety of roles across that. And engineers definitely have this mindset. And I think a lot of builders of, well, if I don't do this now, I'm going to be screwed in a year.
Yeah.
And they'll spend 1 month now so that they're not screwed one year from now. And that 1 month now is like so much more important. It's worth so much more. It's probably worth 30 times that day a year later. And because if it works and you're really going to be around in a year, you're going to have more people, more money, more traction, more opportunity to fix anything. But the challenge is, can you even get there? So you're going to spend all this time to make a perfect thing that you're never going to get there with. And then, so now what? You built the perfect thing that nobody uses. And so the 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week framework is just thinking about every problem probably has a 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week solution.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about months and 3 months. Like I'm talking about 1 hour.
For example, like let's say someone's idea here I saw on Twitter was AI generated wallpapers. Cool idea. What's the 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week of that idea to you if you were to execute?
Yeah, so if you start at kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, it's like, let me roll my own fine-tuned model that, you know what, I'm not going to use Midjourney because you know what, like I'm going to get stuck with their API and they're going to cut me off and like they're going to create this whole story. That's why I got to start from the ground.
I got to create my own model for my wallpapers because these models right now, they just aren't good enough.
I need $3 million. I need $3 million. Yeah, I need $3 million. Why? Because look, Midjourney's going to cut me off.
Yeah.
And it's like, does anybody even want this? Like,
how many wallpapers have you had downloaded? Probably 0.
Yeah. And then how many wallpaper generated? 4. Like I did them on my, and it's like, what's going on here?
But look, the quality of our next wallpaper is going to be 10 fucking K.
Amazing.
10K Furqan.
Amazing.
I need to do this. Why wouldn't I do this?
It's just, get moving, get off, localhost, get something to people so that they can tell you if they actually like it. Most people don't like stuff. Most products don't work.
Yeah.
And so you got to kind of think about like really getting moving and trying to build something.
Yes, I do agree. A lot of people's head will go there. What would be the 1 hour of that idea for you? The AI wallpaper idea.
I mean, honestly, it's probably not AI. It's probably grab a bunch of wallpapers, run a random function, and that feels like AI right now, or something like that. And that's kind of the nature of it. First, you're testing that people want the damn thing. Like you're testing the concept, not building the concept and making sure that it kind of is needed.
And what would you kind of measure in that 1 hour?
I would think about what you want to learn. Like with Third Web, the NFT space was really hot, and it was like, hey, do people want an SDK? Like, are they trying to build applications that are intertwined with these NFTs? Like, is this going to be a thing? And so it was about learning about, will anybody install an SDK?
Yeah.
Do they want no code? Do they want code? Like there were some kind of questions around what it is and who it's aimed for. And I think until we started understanding what people wanted, that wasn't there. And by the way, it's not always what they tell you either. It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
The hard part is customers literally lie to your face. Oh, I love this product. It's like, dude, you didn't even use it. I have tracking. You didn't click the link. Even friends, you send it to friends and they're like, this is amazing. It's like, you didn't sign up. Like, I know. You're not in the database. You didn't click the button. And so, it's hard to get that feedback. So you got to try to get a lot of it.
Yeah, one that's kind of interesting is like, you can win in 1 hour. Like, you don't need, winning is whatever you make it. I think that's something that you told me about a while ago, which is that like, if you're playing a game, you got to set it up for yourself such that you can win. So for example, if I'm working on AI generated wallpapers, the 1 hour of that may be 5 downloads, or maybe it's just getting the website up and getting 1 download from my mom, right? But if I get that, then I won, right? But then I can set that 1 day goal differently. Or my 1 day goal is like, I'm going to post it on Twitter and get 10 downloads on 1 day and then 1 week. And I think that's what's different, right? It's not just setting up the goal, but it's like, honestly, I think building stuff is really fucking hard, like mentally. In the sense of like, you got to come up with new things. You got to wake up and do something different.
Yeah.
And that itself is hard. So, I don't know, setting up the game properly for yourself,
Yeah, and I think just knowing what game you're playing. Like, the game you're playing is when you built the thing and it got off localhost, you got to the starting line. That's the game that people don't realize. They're like, oh, I shipped it. We're done. It's like, no. Like, it just started. Like, you're at 0 now. Like, welcome to the game. You were in the practice game. You were in that like lobby before the game. Like, in PUBG when you're running around. That's what you're in right now. That's when you're building things and you're coding it and you're kind of getting it out there. And then when you actually have it out and people can use it, that's 0. And that's the thing when the game begins. And so I think sometimes people don't know what game they're playing. And that's a huge challenge. And so you kind of got to know what game is being played right now.
Dude, that's crazy. I can literally imagine people running around that Overwatch or PUBG or Call of Duty lobby where they're just fucking around.
That's like what's happening.
That's 99% of people. Yeah. That's so funny. Dude, people who have raised millions of dollars in front of your very eyes are just fucking around the PUBG
They're in the lobby.
They're just in the lobby.
Yeah.
That's crazy. How do you get out of the lobby, man? Like, how do you actually break the... I mean, there's people probably in the lobby. Press 1 if you're in the lobby. Press 2 if you're like, fuck no, I'm playing the game right now. I'm out of the lobby screen. I'm literally on the battlefield. So we're gonna have people pressing 1s and some are 2s. Go. But then if you're in the lobby, you're pressing 1. Like, what do you change in your brain and in what you do tomorrow?
So first, you tell yourself, "I'm in the lobby. I'm not in the real game." So it's a moment. Like, do I actually want it? Like, I think a lot of people say they want to build something, and I think it's just because that's what some of the conversation is around. But they may not want to do it. Now, maybe they're looking for people to build it with, and that makes it a lot easier. And so you got to kind of understand where you are and why that's not happening. Like, I think you have to strategize and think about it. Like, hey, okay, I'm in the lobby. My job is to get into the main game. Main game starts here. What's the gap? Like, how do I work back from that goal? Like, okay, I need to be out there with something that people understand around my idea. Okay, that's where I am. How do I work back from that? Well, what's my idea? It's not written down. It's in my head. Okay, well, let's write it down. Notion doc. Like, even the title of the Notion doc, you now have like the title of your thing.
Yeah.
And then you write a little description about it, write a couple bullet points. You have a few calls, you write some notes, you adjust it, right? Like, it's in Notion, you can edit it. Like, it's something that you can work on, but like, you got to kind of think about what that goal is and just work your way back from that. That's a strategy that a lot of people use to kind of, identify where to go and like how to kind of get there. But it is a discovery process. It's problem solving in the same way that you write code. You kind of think about what the problem is and you find solutions. Yeah. Similarly, your startup or your product has that same kind of loop.
So I think we could get through like one more kind of concept that would kind of help, I feel like. And then kind of get into questions and then end it. And then maybe we'll eat some pizza.
Sweet.
But I don't know. We can talk about a couple things, but goal setting is one interesting thing. But what do you think is, if you got something else that's interesting that you may want to go into?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just sometimes the creativity. I'll kind of tell one story. We had this product called Chatty Heads. That was our internal name for it. It was launched as Bebo Messenger. We had bought back a company called Bebo that Michael Birch, our main investor, had sold to AOL. And we were like, hey, we got this like kind of brand name in the UK. It was like MySpace of the UK. It's pretty popular. And, it was like, how are we going to relaunch this? What's going to be a novel concept? So we came up with this like messenger idea. Messengers were big at the time. Stickers were kind of popping off. And so we created like a little avatar builder. So you download this app, you build your avatar, and then we wanted to make it where it felt like magic. You type a message, I'm like talking to you, Farza. I'm like, hey, Farza, what's up? And you're like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, #slap. And it's a picture of my guy slapping you.
Yeah. What year is this?
This is like 2014.
Ahead of your time, bro.
This product was cool. It was honestly one of the most fun things I built, I think. And so we were like, man, this needs to be on mobile. Like, we have this idea. We want to launch it really fast. Like, Messenger space is like, everyone's just like growing really fast. There's too many of them. So how do we like kind of quickly kind of enter this with something novel? And we have this Bebo thing. We could relaunch it. And so we were like, okay, let's do a hack week. We used to do these weeks where we would take the team somewhere. We went to Lake Tahoe. We rented a cabin. And we're like, all right, this week, we're just going to kind of run 2-a-days. We're going to figure out some way to creatively as a team pull this off. We're going to build a mobile app. We hired the mobile engineer. The first day was the first day of this trip. Like, we hired him on Friday evening. He said, I could start Monday. I was like, cool. We're going on this trip to Lake Tahoe, by the way. So pack your stuff and join us, and you're going to build our iOS app. And so we had to build an app. We had to get the art for the avatars. We had to figure out the whole system. We had to figure out how it all worked, how this kind of concept would happen. And I remember working with an artist, and she was drawing stuff in Illustrator. And I'm trying to figure out, like, how are we going to get this into there in a way that could combine things? And so you're kind of searching online, you're finding things. But, one night I was like, I think I could make like a little builder. And like, I think like around like 10 or 9 or 10 p.m., I kind of had this idea, like, I think I got this export. XML is interesting, or like SVG is an interesting format. There's some rotations, there's some pose, there's some things I think we could do really easily. And so I had this idea of layering kind of SVGs together and bundling them, and you could swap stuff out and it would work. And it's kind of just like a little inspiration. I was like, all right, let me try this. So I quickly kind of hacked together a little thing. My little testing worked in the first hour. I was like, oh, okay. So let me like really just brute force a builder. I'm gonna power through as far as I can get tonight. I'll wake up tomorrow. I'm gonna tell everybody about this thing, and I think it'll be interesting. Maybe I can finish the rest of the week.
Yeah.
So that night I got the worst prototype working. It worked, but it was literally, you thought the NFT Labs white page was bad. This white page was a full white page with like, Web 1.0 or Web 0.5 design to it.
Yeah.
And it was like export your Illustrator, and it would take in all these assets, and then, you could kind of build scenes.
Yeah.
And I showed the artist, and she was like, what the fuck is this? But it worked, and it was enough where I could kind of get it working, and I added some things kind of with some feedback. And honestly, first I only worked on it for maybe 2 days, a few fixes after that. That thing worked for 3 months or 4 months of that product. She was able to design 3,000 scenes with thousands of avatar combinations. Builder, a workflow system from Illustrator to this crappy.
This is the same shit you worked on at like 2 a.m. in the middle of the night in Tahoe.
It was the same thing.
Wow.
And it was just one of those things where like sometimes your solution doesn't have to be pretty. It has to do the job. It did the thing.
Yeah. It
was hideous, and it was a workflow solution. And honestly, the product was kind of magical because you would come in and you could type our hit rate on words was like 90%. It's like people don't know that many words. And then we would just track what we're missing. We just... that day she could now produce 50 of these. And so it was so fast for her to do it. We just started running out of words that we needed to make. And, people were just typing in really bad words. So like that was always things you couldn't do. But
you know what's kind of funny is we always talk about like how builders are too smart for themselves because they have all these skills. They'll take the more complicated route. Like, all right, I need to make an avatar builder. I'm looking at World of Warcraft. I'm going to make a fucking sick-ass builder. It's going to have, like, border radius on the buttons. It's going to be beautiful for it.
Yeah.
But then I think what's kind of funny is, like, when you're sitting there sometimes at 2 a.m., I don't know about you, but for me, I'm just like, brain cells are low.
Yeah.
Let me just do the dumbest thing possible such that I can show the team at 10 a.m. tomorrow, right? And kind of like my head would go there. But I think that's really funny, too.
By the way, this app got millions of downloads in the first week. We were, like, on the #1 of the UK charts. We were really high up in the US charts and social. It had a lot of like initial usage, but it didn't have the kind of long-term network pull. Like people were like, this is cool, but I'm not going to like take my friends off of Messenger or WhatsApp for this.
And you know what's funny about this, dude? 17-year-old you would have built this.
I probably 17-year-old me probably would have built it. 25-year-old me would have outsmarted myself.
Yeah.
And then I think, at that moment I kind of got back to the right state of like, just, it's like that bell curve, right? You want to be, you want to be in that simple mode of like, kind of just do the thing.
Yeah. I mean, you see me outsmart myself like a lot, right?
It's too easy because we're
It's getting
trained to do
better
it.
over time, though. You know, we're
No, I
getting better.
think we all do it. Like it's too easy to kind of sit and overthink ourselves around what we need to do. Like sometimes the real thing is simple. And
Yeah. No, it's like if you have the skill to do it, you're gonna do it. Like if you have the skill to go and talk to an investor, you're gonna go talk to an investor. But is that really what you need to be doing right now? Or if you have the skill to make a website, like, is that really what you need to be doing right now? Yeah,
I would say website more likely than the investor. So
probably.
yeah.
All right, we'll take some questions. We got like 10 minutes left here, so there's probably gonna be a lot of questions. But I'll be reading the chat here, me and Furqan. You could just pick one too that you think is interesting.
I
But
can't really see it.
yeah, don't worry. Yo, this guy's been copy pasting his question for a bit, but this person.
All right, coder with or
Why were there 10 to 15 calls per day? How did you prioritize yourself among your focus and your sales aspirations? What is real for you among building or funding/sales?
I think I would say it's like at that moment, that's what we needed to do. We needed to just talk to people. So I prioritize that. I think we use a framework called A+ problem. It's kind of like you think about your goals as there's a river blocked by a bunch of boulders, and your job is to get the river flowing. When the river's flowing, that's like your success state.
Yeah.
And so, if every week you could only move one boulder, which boulder would you move, Farza?
I moved the one that's simplest to move.
Well, yeah. Or if you could choose anyone, you'd move the biggest one, right? Because
Yeah.
So you would say like, hey, this is the biggest boulder in the way, and when I move this, the most water starts flowing.
Sure.
So let me go tackle that. So the A+ problem is this is the biggest company problem. This is the fundamental thing. And I think what people do is when they outsmart themselves, they're taking B+ and C+ and D+ problems and going, oh, that's going to be an A+ problem in 2 years or in 6 months or
Yeah.
tomorrow or whatever. And so for me, it wasn't about taking 10 calls a day. I usually wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah.
At that time, I just needed to talk to a lot of people about
even
it.
the boulder. It's about like picking the boulder, right? You could pick the heaviest boulder that lets the least amount of water flow through, right?
Right.
But or you could pick the boulder that's like pretty fucking heavy. It's gonna be tough, but like if I let this through, it's a flood about
Exactly. That's your A+ problem. And as a startup, you probably can only focus on one thing, and in a week or so in some timeline. And I think that's key. Is like, what do you pick to work on? And
Yeah.
the amount of teams I see working on their pitch decks for weeks and weeks and weeks, or working on refining their optimized query structure, and I'm like, please just go talk to some people, see if they want it, because you're gonna waste your time. You're gonna waste everyone's time, and time is like the most critical resource you have in building things. You want to get the most shots on
Yeah.
goal of the highest quality.
Yo, let me show you some SQL queries, bro.
Yeah,
They're
please.
fucking nice though.
Yeah.
Yo, 0.002 second millisecond. I'm just saying.
Amazing.
All right, but anyways, I love this question right here because I get it all. Because I tell people the same thing. They ask me, it says, would the 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week mental model work for game devs? I guess, I feel like I know what you're going to say, but I also want to preface it, but I feel like this model works for literally anyone from like you making hip hop music to you working on like a startup that needs to get 1 million people on it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for this question specifically, like 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week for game devs.
I think so. Now, the challenge is you can really easily get caught up into AAA games take a long time. I got all these mechanics until if the whole gameplay loop, the game doesn't make sense. Like I think that's all probably true to some degree, and there's a long arc there to get to final stage game. But then, like concepts, mini games, mini loops, like there is a VR app that is part of our portfolio here at Founders Inc. Gym Class.
Yeah.
And Matthew, who's one of the founders, like I just remember early on it was like, yeah, I made the dribble mechanic today and I put it out there, and their app is like, the way they rolled it out was so awesome. It's a VR basketball game. And you could imagine like, hey, I got to make 2K. I need everything. It needs to look real and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And what they did is they had one public gym. So you opened the app and you went in and you were just in a public gym that you could shoot around in.
Yeah, so you're in VR and you're like dribbling a ball.
Correct. So no private rooms, no private games, no 2-on-2, no skins,
multiplayer?
no jerseys, no multiplayer,
No quick matchmaking, bro?
no quick matchmaking, no mini games. It was just literally a public gym. And when you went in it, Matthew showed up. That was the key. Matthew was just like, hey, what's up? And it was cool because first you got in, you could try it around, and he got a chance to, he set up the environment so he could get feedback, right? And over time, the game has evolved a lot, and you could see the vision that they wanted to create over time. And I know in early conversations with them, those were part of their direction.
Yeah.
So, but they knew that they needed so much more. They needed to perfect the mechanic. They needed a loyal base of users. And they actually found that, and that helped them, and then they iterated, and then they built more gyms, and then they optimized for things that were going to give them feedback. Public gyms, not private matchmaking, opportunities where collisions could happen, opportunities where they could hear the feedback of people, stuff like that. And I think that was like really, really important. And so I think it can work for that. I think Mafiaverse, who worked out of here for the last few months,
Yep.
He's got a big idea around this game, and he's created a few mini loops and just launched them. Like, like a 5-minute playable thing. Like, you can create that. Test your thing, because if nobody knows what it is, how are you going to know if they like it or not? You're always going to like your idea. You're the one coming up with it. Your friends are going to lie to you.
Yeah.
The people around you are not going to give you honest opinions. When you get real customers that don't care about you or your company or your investor's name or whoever using your product, that's the real currency. And so you got to kind of get to that. And I think for game devs, it's about finding that. Who's my user group and how do we do that? And I do believe there are 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week versions of this. And maybe that doesn't mean you build a full game in an hour,
Yeah. I think someone asked, by the way, what the 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week thing is. But just real quick, the summarization is like, what can you do in 1 hour, then 1 day, and then 1 week that pushes your thing forward, right? So like for a game dev, that 1 hour may be like, I've contract someone next to me to do contract art, and I put that on a website, right? And then I tweet about it and I ask people, what do you think about this concept art? That's a fun 1 hour, right? There's many ways to go about it, but yeah, it's all about, because I think even for me, right, when I wake up in the morning, I'm not asking myself, what do I got to get done today? I'm curious, what do you ask yourself? Because this is a question. What do you ask? What's your routine? But I think the kind of the more interesting question is like, when you wake up in the morning, what do you think about? Like, what's the question you ask yourself?
Yeah.
Lately,
it
could just be like, oh man, like, do they have this on the menu today?
Usually my cat's meowing, so that's usually the first thing. Like, why is he meowing?
Yeah, straight up.
Why is it 6:30? Like, what does he need? He usually just wants food, or he wants to play at 6 a.m. So that's
the first thing.
That's the first thing usually. And then I don't know. I kind of, in a perfect world, I could kind of chill around home for a few hours. I think these days a little busy and kind of trying to change that hopefully into next year. But it's kind of like that. I do think there's frameworks that I've liked, which is just asking yourself, what's the A+ thing? Yeah. I remember when the Vector Dash guys were staying at my place, and I was driving them to work every day for like 2-3 weeks. In the car, we had 10 minutes, and I would ask them, what's the main thing you're going to accomplish today? And they would say some stuff, and I'm like, no, I was being serious with this question. And because they're telling me, those other things, and it was about, no, like, how many people are going to, game stream today? Yeah. Like, that's the question. They're like, no, but optimizing the encoder. No. How many people are going to game stream today?
It's actually crazy. Even I do that as well, where I just walk around. I'll go up to Abhishek, who's one of our buddies. I'll be like, Abhishek, what's the A+ problem? And then he would ask me that too. And it's crazy, just by that person asking you, your brain goes to a different spot. It's like all of a sudden what you may be saying sounds fucking stupid. Like if you ask me like on a day where I don't know, I'm just kind of confused what I'm working on, what my A+ problem is, you'll be able to suss that in 2 seconds. Like, dude, why are you working on that? But I think if you ask in the mornings, you just think about that question, like, what is the one thing, the most important thing I can do today? And that's gonna, and why, right? If you justify it to yourself.
I think so. I mean, it's just hard to do a lot of stuff. So you just kind of focus, go simple. Like, let me just get one major thing done. I'll feel good. Like, I'll feel like I accomplished the thing I needed to do because it was the most important thing.
Yeah. It's like, again, setting up the game, right? You can end your day sad. Actually, you're kind of funny where like, I feel like you're never like down in like the classic sense. You're like, oh fuck, it's not working. But because I think that you're just good at setting up the game for yourself. Where like on a given day, if the day ends, you either won or you lost, and you're not like happy or sad. Like you're not emotionally attached to your output for the day. I feel like you're just like either won or either lost. If I lost, I'm gonna come back tomorrow better. Yeah. But I feel like that's the mentality.
We had a win or learn mentality at Bebo. So, you're either going to win or you're going to learn. Yeah. And, you could get down on yourself, or you kind of know there's another cycle tomorrow, and you could just get back to it. I think the days that I wouldn't be excited or happy kind of in my output would be the days that I'm not content with what I did. Like, did I do the right inputs? Like, did I put the right effort, energy? The results I can't control. Like, you mostly don't control your results. So you control, like, what you put into it, the input. And I think that that's where you can be harder on yourself if you're not doing the right inputs. Yeah. You shouldn't be harder on yourself on the outputs.
For example, like you could post on like 10 platforms to grow your product. That's your input. And they could all get 0 views at the end of the day, right? But when you look at that, it's like, okay, I posted on Reddit, Hacker News, Product Hunt, and I got 0 people looking at it. Like, how do you not get how do you not get down on yourself for getting 0 at that moment?
I mean, the greatest thing happened. You now know what not to do.
Yeah, it's true.
It's not like, let me go back and do it again because I got 0, right? Like it didn't work. So cross it off the list and go to the next one.
Yeah.
And then people will tell you, but how do you know if I did it right? Well, that's what you ask yourself. Like, are you content with your effort of it? Did you push hard enough? Did you go to the mall with the burrito and say, download my app? I couldn't get anybody to download my app. Did you go to the mall? Because, we got 10 downloads like that once, and you're telling me you got 0.
Yeah.
Did you run an ad? Like, remember when we talked about Zip School at the start? You're like, I can't get anybody. But did you run an ad? And you're like, aren't ads bad? I'm like, don't you need people to use your product?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I think like I was definitely the type to get super down on myself, where if I didn't do something good that day, I'd be like, I'm shit. This whole company is shit. What the fuck am I doing? Every day. Pretty exhausting, right? But I think that like now for me, it's just like, you're going to wake up tomorrow, and the tomorrow is another day. And if you don't learn from the previous day, you're fucked, right? Probably. But I think that's the mentality, right? You're going to wake up tomorrow, you're going to learn from the previous day. But if you don't learn, you're just going to keep on like jamming your head against the wall.
And it takes a while. I mean, it took me a long time to kind of sometimes think about, hey, I actually got to strategize around this. I can't just keep doing the same thing. It's not working. The feeling of something working is so uniquely different than it kind of or not working. It's like night and day. I think you felt this with Zip School too. There was like the homeschool product. You were pushing pretty hard and you kind of got to all the right inputs where you felt like, hey, this should work and I feel content with my thing. And then when you switch to the live streaming kind of product, it was like, wow, like I'm getting hundreds and then thousands and then tens of thousands of people a week using this thing, and it almost felt more effortless.
Yeah.
Like that when something's working, that's what it feels like. It feels like it runs away from you.
Even like Buildspace now, right? Like here we are sitting with hundreds of people in a chat listening to us talk, and it's all part of the company that me and the team are working on, right? And yeah, I do think once it starts working, it could just mean like 10 people looking at it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Once it does start working, you are different the next week, the next day, the next week.
Feels very different. And, so I think you hunt for that. You hunt for the thing that's actually working, and then just make sure that you're happy with your inputs.
Cool. What else we got here? I feel like a lot of people are asking this question. I don't really. Whatever. It's like, what's your favorite part of the founder journey, the builder journey? What are you in it for, man? What's your deal?
What's my deal?
What's your deal?
It's my deal. I like building cool shit. I get excited when people find value in something. It's like there's a reward loop. There's always a game, right? So like, which game do you want to play? Do you want to play status? You want to play whatever other games that people get into? Or do you kind of have a loop that you create that something different? For me, that loop was I enjoy being creative, and for me, that's building things. And it could be like a simple app or product. It could be a physical thing. It could be I mount a TV on a wall and I feel good about that. But, the idea is that, you do something and then other people kind of find value or joy in it. And if you could do that at a large scale impact, that sounds really cool.
Yeah. Is that thing still true? I remember you told me a while back, you were like, my goal is to go to a random country and then go on a bus. And then if somebody on the bus is using my app, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to smile. And that's when I know I did it.
Yeah.
Is that still your thing, you think? Or what's
it's definitely, I felt it a lot more now because some of the things I've done have had some of that effect, and it's cool. I think that was definitely the goal when I wanted to build like consumer social apps, which is a big thing for me for a while. I think now it's, kind of like the founder journey is much more interesting. Like how do we spawn thousands of epic companies through Founders Inc.? Like how do we, get thousands of Farzas launched and out and building cool stuff? Like I think that's the current goal.
Yeah, just like one plate of biryani, 1 cup of chai a day, and you have 1,000 Farzas probably, right? And fathers that expect too much of you. There you go. But this is a good question. What's your biggest regret?
Biggest regret?
I'm not going to go into your personal life. There's probably some stuff there. I'm talking about founder regret, Furqan. Builder regret.
I mean, definitely the live RSVP experience. I always look back at it. Regret is the wrong word for me because you make decisions with the information in front of you, right? So you kind of have, a certain set of info. You have some knowledge of how to think and act in your frameworks, and there are certain information that you get from other people, and you make choices. And so you have to kind of live with those choices, and that's all right. I think if I could go back, like there's a few moments where if I could grab myself and say, stop trying to be so smart, like that would be the key thing. It's like more, focus on the real thing going on and not trying to just act smart. And I think that would have saved me a bunch of headache, especially early on in the journey.
Dude, one of my biggest regrets in just this whole journey, you probably already know about because you were there for that decision, is I pivoted away from this live streaming product for children to building like small classes, like, or I'd hire a teacher instead, and it'd be like a small Zoom call with kids to learn, right? But this live stream product had like almost, it was like 50,000 monthly users, just me, myself working on it, right? And I remember you said, all right, Farza, you're going to pivot from the live stream thing to the one-to-one class thing. Like, are you making a logical decision or are you making an emotional decision? And I remember I told you I was making a logical decision, but deep down, it was the most emotional decision I ever made. And just complete regret, right? In the sense of like, wow, I'm glad I did it because I got here. But man, and I look back like, God damn it. Like, I wish I was smarter back then. So now everything I do at Buildspace, I think about that. I was like, am I making an emotional decision right now? Because I'm always going to be a % emotional, or am I making like a 90% logical decision? So
yeah, I think you were a little tired, and then COVID was happening around then, so there's like a lot going on in the world.
Yeah.
But if you think about that first year, and kind of going from just like simple idea to trying to figure out how to do stuff to like, hey, I now know how to do stuff, but it's not working. And then knowing how to do stuff and it kind of working, but not knowing like what you didn't know then. And this kind of is the information thing. That's why you shouldn't regret it, is you didn't know that was a special amount of pull in your product.
Yeah.
You had no idea.
No idea.
You just thought, I could do this with the next thing. And everything I'm going to do is going to be this minimum. I did this. But certain things work better. They hit better. And you had never experienced that is working and the other thing wasn't. And so you needed more information in your life to be able to make that choice that you didn't have. Yeah. So you shouldn't regret it, but you should, now you know that, right?
Yeah. Again, regret probably the wrong word, but it's like you look back and you're like, fuck, why'd I do that?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I'm an idiot. Like,
fuck yeah. I'll never let that happen
I was
again.
in that spot and I didn't realize this.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, you did the one-on-one product after, and now you knew how much harder that was.
Yeah, bro.
That was like, wow, like I'm getting 1/100th of the output.
Yeah.
And for the input I'm putting in.
There's a kind of interesting question here people keep asking, which is kind of, I feel like you have a good answer. But it's just like, how do you handle a poor experience or a bad partner or someone you're working with that isn't putting in the effort or someone that burns you? How do you kind of go from, like, do you continue to mend that relationship? Do you move on with your life? Like, what do you do if you're working with someone or you kind of get burned from your partner?
Yeah, I think you got to figure out like
customer, whatever, right?
Yeah, like what's actually happening here, and so you got to like zoom out. You got to separate yourself from the situation if you can. And I think about like is this something that I want to foster going forward? Like, do I need this person? Do they need me? Like, what's the relationship here? And if it's not working out, it's cool. You move on. Like that, shake hands, end it, move on. Like that you could do that. I think people definitely get emotional with situations. Especially if somebody wastes your time or your effort. And
or it's like a co-founder is like, I want to leave and I want a percent of the company still. It's like all these things, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. It just, you gotta have your like reason hat on. You gotta think about what your objective is and work back from that. And so the information changes. Like you could have like a great co-founding relationship and then 3 months go by and it's not working. Now your information is different. Your goals are different. And so you have a new objective. Your objective 3 months ago no longer is valid. And so now you have a new goal with the new state. And when that's happening, you have to decide, hey, I got to change my approach too. And if somebody's hostile, you got to separate yourself from them. Okay. If somebody's just like, hey, I can't work with this person, they're toxic, there's other things, like you have to find those opportunities to separate from that. But then it's a different condition. It's not the same. And so don't treat it the same. Yeah. And if you get scorned by it, if you feel kind of that emotion around it, like the problem is you're going to hold that and you're going to affect your decision making going forward. And so that's I think kind of important. It's like if you're kind of going to separate yourself from a situation, most startups don't work out. Most co-founding situations don't work out. So like that's that. But over time, you find your group that you could build with, and you keep doing that. And I've seen a lot of groups like that where, they've built 5, 10 different products together over 10, 12 years. And over time, that's what you're hunting for, the few people that you kind of get in a room with and you trust that they're going to kind of build the things that you want and you can build the things that they want.
It's crazy how much stuff just gets so complicated when your emotions get tied into it.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how simple it is. Oh, that person wasn't doing the work? Well, I want to work with someone who does the work. I will find someone who does the work with me.
Great.
I will leave.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh no, now I'm like, do they really deserve that? Do they really deserve this? It's like you get into like these scenarios, but it's like, just be logical about it, right?
It's like, what do you want out of this?
Yeah.
And just do that.
Just do that. What's the 1 hour ship it of like solving that solving that problem within you? All right, cool. I think we're pretty good. Oh my, Dylan keeps asking this question. Furqan, advice for high school students.
I mean, I'm a terrible person to give advice, so I won't, This is all opinion, so just take it all as opinion.
We suck at advice, for sure.
Yeah, advice is wrong. I don't know. Like, find your passions and build stuff. Like, what was I doing in high school? I was building some products on the technology side or, like, messing with computers. I was messing with cars, too, so, like, I would, I just have this, like, mindset of take things apart and put them back together. And so find your version of whatever that is. Like, for me, it was, like, having that experience of being able to kind of go discover something, learn it, problem solve, take it apart, put it back together. And so I did that with cars. I did that with computers. I turned some of my passions into work. I did that because it was like, yeah, everybody's like, go to college, go to a good school.
Yeah.
All these things don't sound exciting to me. What sounds exciting? Well, these other things. And so I think just like I ended up just saying to myself, like, hey, if I could just kind of do my passion for as long as possible and get paid for it, let me just try that. And that turned into a little business, buy and sell stuff, and then that turned into that e-commerce company. And so I'm not sure if that's advice or just opinion around like follow your passion and do stuff. Like,
just do you. Don't try to emulate.
Don't emulate. Don't overcomplicate it. Just kind of do you. Don't overthink it. I think probably stay in school is a good bit.
Probably high school.
Yeah, you could test out.
Johnny for advice.
Johnny tested out. You didn't.
14?
15, I think,
15
or something.
got out?
2 years, yeah. So there's ways, like,
Yeah. All right, I guess last question then. We'll wrap it up. But Buildspace and Founders Inc. Buildspace, we work closely together, right? In some ways. We don't
literally.
Literally, like we're 6 meters away. But we're also I said meters.
I know, I was about to.
I've been spending too much time with the Europeans.
I know.
Yeah, shout out to Yannick and Tahir.
Yannick.
But a lot of people here are starting that journey, right? And Founders Inc. is beautiful at getting people, once they kind of figured some of their shit out, to kind of keep on going, go even higher, right? So like, for the people who are at Buildspace right now, what would you kind of tell them? And then for people who want to work towards Founders Inc., which is like, it's almost like I wouldn't say the big leagues, but we can call it the big leagues, right? How would you, what would you kind of tell those people? Because everybody here at Buildspace is kind of either in that middle of the journey or getting there, right? They want to be like at Founders Inc. A lot of people here.
Yeah, and so the cool thing is we got a chance to see nights and weekends one, right? Like kind of go down, and I think the experience here was awesome. Like just having 40 or 50 builders, the energy, the kinds of things happening, and there's like multiple companies and products from that are now part of our portfolio, but also just have gone on to kind of become a thing, like a real full startup or company, funded, etc. And it's kind of like that is very much so a possibility that's there, and you have to think about what steps you need to do to kind of get there. It's not going to be because you came up with the grandest idea in the world. It's going to be because you did something cool that you're passionate about that you think people need, and you kind of like ship that, and that's going to be it. I mean, there's a Solana vending machine downstairs from the last nights and weekends still here.
Yes, sir.
Right? So, things do exist through nights and weekends, and it's really awesome to see that. And, the momentum you build in this kind of, this season, it's kind of like it continues. Like it accelerates from there. And whether it's through Founders Inc. or other places, like I would think of this as a launch pad. Like you're getting off the pad here and your rocket's going upwards. Yeah. And there's a lot of energy it takes to get it moving, but this is what it is,
Yeah. And I guess like last thing on Founders Inc. in terms of like, it's just a story worth telling because I feel like most people don't even know the story of the hackathon, right? So I'll just tell it real quick. But Founders Inc., it started with these 5 companies that had hackathon your house, including me, 3 years ago. And now collectively it's like almost worth $500 million, like those 5 companies. Like, that's fucking insane, right? When you think about it. And, but again, it all started from like a dumb hackathon at your house where I showed up and I was like, I'm going to build something for children, some educational thing. And you were like, I'm going to build a live product, which is like a walkie-talkie with video. Sharif was there, who now works on Lexica. I don't remember what he was working on.
I think it was Super or Greenhouse or.
Oh my God, yeah, Super. Yeah, it was a habit tracking tool. But again, like all the companies that are being worked on right now, it's actually the same exact company. Like they never change. It's the same exact cap
It's
table.
like that hackathon. I don't know what was going on there. I think it was it was pre-COVID. When did we do this?
It was December of 2019, I remember.
Yeah.
Because 4 days after that, I started this company, it's called Zip Education, right?
Yeah. And yeah, like it was just kind of like, hey, let's just hack on some stuff and build it. And we had these ideas sitting around in our head for some time.
Yeah.
You know, with Johnny, I think I had a domain.
Yeah, it was the Docker deploy.
It was runacontainer.com. That's the domain I had. I still have it, by the way. If somebody.
Oh, man.
And so, you know, Johnny had been really interested into DevOps stuff. So he just kind of followed that.
Yeah.
Me and Jake were playing with, you know, live streaming and video because we had played a lot with that stuff. And I don't know. It was just like, it was, you know.
That was literally on a weekend of a night.
Yeah.
Right? And then you were working at Twitch. I wasn't even full-time yet. I was like in between, like figuring out like, what the fuck am I doing? I think Sharif was also like, what am I doing? Everybody was like, what are we doing? But it's like, all right, we're going to show up on this weekend at Furqan's house from like 7 to 2 a.m. Furqan's going to order chicken wings and we're going to ship something. And I guess it's just crazy to think that I started from there, Sharif started from there. The things that we're working on today started from there.
Yeah.
But it's like, we needed that forcing function. So like, I guess for a lot of people here today, it's very similar. They're in the same exact spot in many ways.
Yeah, and then, you know, even a few months later when we started the Discord and we started doing ship-its every Monday, it was just like 5 or 10 of us. And, you know, like there was no grand vision of like, what will this thing be? And like, you know, trying to construct, it's along the way we figured out, hey, what are the main things people want to do?
Yep.
Let's just do that. All of us were trying to build stuff. We didn't know what we were doing. Yeah, let's get together and not know what we're doing together. And maybe it'll be fun then, you know?
Yeah.
So you just have fun along the way. Like try to do things that you enjoy. And I don't know, the hackathon was pretty special. We'll have to do another one like that.
Yeah, that is maybe one final thing I'll tell people. This advice is that find that group of 4 to 5 people that like you can kind of get around. I know it's really hard, but it's not about joining a founder, builder community or doing any of this shit. It's about like, you know, press 1 if on Twitter you posted your idea, right? And someone gave you feedback, right? I'm expecting like a bunch of ones. I don't know if you saw that stuff, but like ideas and ideas.
Every new season of Buildspace, my Twitter timeline is all NW, you know. So.
NWS2. Yeah, but those people gave you feedback. Like, get those people in a call every week, right? Put in the effort to get 5 people in a call with you every week. You already got friends right here that you can meet on Twitter. It's not impossible. You don't have to be in San Francisco IRL in the heart of it all to like necessarily do it. You can do it from your end, right?
And I mean, we used to do this at Bebo. I mean, Sean had this idea around mastermind groups where, you know, hey, like I want to be really good at X. I want to be a better startup founder. I want to be a better, you know, technology person. I want to be whatever. And we would just find people, and it was like, hey, we got this group of people, and we together want to kind of just, you know, talk about some of the things that we're working on. And it was like everybody eats dinner. So like, hey, how about at lunch, one day a month, we're gonna get together, we'll create a little session, we can kind of talk about some things. And the key in those moments is you're not trying to give advice to people. You're not trying to tell people what to do. Yeah. You're just trying to talk about the stuff that you're working on, and maybe smart people can ask you some questions. But you find that group. I mean, we had one that I showed up for, I think, twice with Ben and you,
the Zoom
Morgan,
call. Yeah.
Abhishek.
I remember I was just super down. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to get 10 people in a Zoom call and just tell them what I'm doing once a week.
Yeah.
And you were one of those people in that call. Yeah. But it's like, that was 8 random people and then you and Abhishek.
It wasn't really random. It's like people you kind of interact with online a little bit.
Yeah, it's like you kind of know who they are on Twitter, but you never actually saw their face or talked to them directly.
You know, surprisingly, most people, if you DM them, they want to connect. That's why they're there. Like, that's why we're online and talking to each other about this stuff, because we're interested in it. And so, you know, when you see an open DM, like, don't be afraid to send the message. Worst case that happens, they don't respond to it. Yeah. By the way, when you don't send the message, they're also not responding to that. Same condition. Yeah. Like, it's the same thing. But then when they respond to it, cool stuff happens. I mean, I don't know, a lot of the people that have joined Founders Inc. or part of the companies, they're from Twitter. They DM'd me. They DM'd people on our team. They talked to us. They showed their passion. They're here. Like, you know, the first person
like you showed.
on.
It's not like, hey, Furqan, would love to get in a call with you and network a bit and get to know each other. It's like, what the fuck? I know, I don't want to do this. But it's like, oh, fuck, you built that thing? I would love to get in a call with you once a week and share what we built together. Like, so I think one of the lowest effort, highest value things anybody can do here right now is find 5 people on nights and weekends from Twitter or LinkedIn that you think seem interesting and get them in a weekly Zoom call every Saturday, Friday on some day. One of the easiest things to do probably takes 20 minutes to set up, right? I mean, that's what we did essentially, and here we are.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be on you to kind of make those groups happen, and you know, you're going to get the benefit from it. So it's just, these are things that you could just be doing every day.
All right. Well, that's it. Thanks, man.
All right.
See you guys later. How do you stop this thing? Oh, fuck.
I guess we'll just keep going until Farza stops it. I think you press that button over there.
It never truly stops, bro. All right, everybody. Thanks. Please rate this out of 10. And then go follow Furqan on Twitter.
Yeah.
At FurqanR.
Yeah, at FurqanR.
And then tell him how much you love him. He'll love it. Thanks.
Amazing.
See ya.